Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the June episode of Tales of the Sale, which is episode 17, unless I just didn't edit the show notes correctly, which is totally my fault and not that of Glenn. So joining us this evening from our secure undisclosed locations throughout the northeastern / mid-Atlantic United States would be Glenn, the painting champion Van Meter.
Oh wow! Right off the bat. Ooh. Hello, everyone.
And we have Tyler, dinner after 9 o'clock, Stone.
Yeah. How's everybody doing?
I don't understand how your diet works out quite this way. And I am Tom Chairborne Mullane, and we are coming to you as part of No Dice, No Glory and Tales of the Sale. So we're going to go into a little bit what we've been up to. We have a lot going on this episode. We have some trivia to cover and people to pick. We have the results of Glenn and my bets from the last month, which are going to be interesting. And we have some changes to how we're going to do that moving forward. Thanks to a suggestion by brilliant friend of the show, Brian Reed, who Glenn filled me in on. I thought was a good idea. And we also have some more ship questions. So we'll get into a little bit of that more. Yeah, we also have we have big news that was already published on Joe Forrester's blog, Blood and Pigment, but we're going to give it a big plug. And I'm going to make a recruitment drive because I desperately need people to join me in my crusade. So, Glenn, do you want to tell people what you've been up to over the last month?
Yeah, so firstly, I was able to host an organized play event with a friend of the show, Preston Jacka, who's another quartermaster, and we teamed up and went to Critical Hit Games in Abingdon, Maryland, and we were able to run Scenario 1 from the, what is it called, the Buccaneers Companion, Volume 1, something like that. But it's essentially the Portobello scenario. So I had managed to paint up all of the stuff needed to do Portobello for the Spanish. He provided the Buccaneers, and we had a beautiful table that we played some games on. And I think the result at the end of the day was pretty much a draw, possibly with the Spanish leading it, because we let people also come and play smaller games, or some people took just the scenario and ran sea battles.
What kind of turnout did you guys get?
I think we had 9 people total, including 2 brand new players running demos against Tyler.
Yep.
Great. Cool.
Because Preston and I were busy handling the other game, so Tyler also came down just to hang out and ended up running some demos.
Yeah, I won't claim to have hosted that one because you guys put the main event together.
Did Tyler almost come on the wrong day? Because I feel like there was a period where he was about to.
No.
Yeah, I thought that it was Saturday because who schedules an event on Sundays? But
the historicals group at that store meets on Sundays. Actually,
yeah,
it's not the only store where the historicals group meets on Sundays. Locally, it seems like they all do.
Yeah, I imagine that Games Workshop and the Magic the Gathering crowd probably pushes historicals around a good bit in spaces like that.
Oh yeah, that store does a lot of Friday Night Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely are a little second fiddle to the card games at times, but good turnout on Sundays and like Wednesday evenings if you're looking in the area to play Critical Hits.
Yeah, it's a cool store too. It was really nice in there, and they had all their Blood and Plunder stock like front and center.
Oh yeah, it is on a pedestal as you walk in the front door. You have to go around it to go into the store.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they just started carrying Oak and Iron too, so they're looking to get that going. Anyways, in addition to that, painting. Oh God, painting.
You set a record. I think you said.
I set a
Yeah.
personal record, which I don't think I'm ever going to meet again. Before we did our bet last time, I had already painted up a unit of Milicianos for my Spanish, knowing that this organized play event was coming up. Then we made the bet that we were going to paint the Spanish box. So I did more Milicianos, a unit of Lanceros, and then because boxes come with units of 4 models, like the Milicianos Indios and the Marineros, I don't like painting just 4 because I want more than that on the tabletop. So I bumped both of those units up to 8 as well, and then I had an extra spare Spanish commander, so I threw him in. And then halfway through the month, I realized I needed Dutch cavalry for the organized play scenario, and I ended up painting all of that. Which I count cavalry as 2 models. So in my brain, I painted 52 models in the month of May.
That's insane. That's
Yeah.
absolutely insane. I
And
never had a productive month like that.
I was hoping to get the Militia Canadiens done because they're fairly simple, but some family stuff came up at the end of the month, and I only had them started before I ran out of time. But I was aiming for 64. Oh,
So I think you had about as good a productive gaming session as a gamer's ever had for the month of May. So
yeah.
good on you.
But I completed the Spanish box.
You did. You did. Well,
And then some.
We'll circle back. We'll circle back to that. So
Tyler.
what has Tyler been up to?
Eating dinner. No, no. So I was actually out tonight demoing a game. I wasn't running the demo. I was being demoed too. I was playing Test of Honor, which is, I think, Gray for Now is the company that's running it currently. It was a Warlord Games product for the longest time. It's okay. I really missed the activation system from Blood and Plunder, though. Like Mike nailed it on that, I think. Test of Honor has the very European. Not that there's anything wrong with the Europeans, which we'll circle back to, but it has a very European activation system where the turn can end before you've activated all of your units, and you're very restricted on choice and how you can activate things like that. So aside from being sidetracked playing completely different games that have no bearing on this podcast, I have also been getting sidetracked in kind of a scenic demo table, unofficial build-off kind of thing with Preston. So that's twice now that we've mentioned him in this episode since we haven't brought him up.
You guys
for a
were
while.
making I was seeing all these sketches. Those were Preston's sketches, right? That you were sending in Messenger?
Yeah, we were sending stuff back and forth because some of those were mine, and I actually redid that entire sketch. I've signed myself up for a stupid amount of work.
Well, let me know if I can help by contributing something, because I will definitely help you at some point. If you want any of my terrain. I'm happy
Yeah, I think he's going...
Is
so they're just 2 foot by 2 foot boards, and they're going to be static terrain. So
okay.
Yeah, everything's going to be integrated straight into the base. So we can get kind of creative and make things really pretty. We're both planning to have a dock section so that we can show off. I think on 2 feet, the biggest boat we can fit is the bark, but we can show off one of the ships.
No, I think the bark's perfect for a demo because it's big enough with the sails that it looks like a ship, but it's not the kind of it's small enough that it fits pretty
and
neatly.
stuck in the dock. So, wait, are you going to make the bark movable, or are you going to glue it into the thing?
Mine, I'm planning to make removable. I don't know what he's doing with his, if his is going to be anchored down in the literal sense or not.
I would not put it past Preston to just glue the bark in place.
For the price of it, yeah, you could probably do that. I've thought about doing it just so that I can run mooring lines to it and everything.
I'm pretty sure that he made a galleon into a terrain piece.
No.
He did.
No.
He does have it loose. He can still play it though.
Okay,
No,
okay.
Preston, no. It's
It's
like the saddest
Tom-
thing I've ever heard.
Meanwhile, Tom's up there in Connecticut just being, where's my galleon?
Where's my galleon? Oh, I gotta wait for the doubloons. And then the price went up because I didn't buy it fast enough.
Yeah, that's what caught me as well.
I'm a fool. It's my own fault.
And hopefully by the time people are able to listen to this episode, I will be setting up some games in the local area and trying to kind of get a head count of how many people picked the game up during the lockdown, how many people have gotten out of the game, unfortunately, and if we can try and bring them back in, and figuring out what stores we all want to play at. You know, a good 50-50 meeting spot for those of us here in central Pennsylvania and then across the border in in Glenn's territory and Preston.
Yeah, I've got a couple stores I'm trying to talk to, bring online, etc.
Yeah, it's not the store overlap. It's honestly just how spread out everybody is. We have a lot of players in the area. It's just getting them to all get into one store. I think we can have like a roving carnival of Blood and Plunder players.
I mean, you could have like a monthly event and just rotate where it is.
Yeah, that's something that we were going to try and discuss last night, Glenn and I, but I was busy eating dinner at 9:00.
I don't understand how you function in society. We live in a society, Tyler.
No, the trick is just you eat like 8 hours after you wake up, so you just sleep in every day.
That's not how my day would work. It does not work for me. By the time it's 8 hours after I've gotten up, like my day is over. Like, because it's just not. We live very different lives.
Yes.
So like what I've been up to is mostly waiting for the school year to end. I would say that the countdown began like 2 months ago. Yeah, like most teachers get senioritis starting around like late May. So this is the normal time to get it, but for me it started a while ago. I'm fried. Especially ever since the CDC moved the mask mandate. You've got but they haven't removed it for schools because New York State dictates as a public high school what we have to do. So there are plenty of people that are very angry that they have to continue wearing masks while in school. I'm not weighing in one way or another. I'm vaccinated. I'm done. But getting to fight a constant battle over it has been kind of exhausting. So they also normally we have a classes would end around the 16th of June in New York, and we'd have an exam week, but we don't have exams because they've been exempted from them. So we've been told we have to teach straight through, even though their grades are due like 4 days before the end of school. So there's like literally no assignments I'm allowed to give them in those last couple days. So the way of tying this all back to Blood and Plunder would be to tell you that I'm basically playing Blood and Plunder games with my students for the last 3 days of class because it's educational, it's historical, and the kids are learning through gaming. So thank you, Mike Tunez, for giving me a game that I can point to. And if an administrator asks me what am I doing, I'm showing students the dramatic impact of greed and piracy on inter-regional trade throughout the Caribbean. That's what I'm going to go with. Yeah, I even found a way to ask kids an essay question about Raiders of the Lost Ark, so I'm pretty good at this game.
I thought you were going to say you're demonstrating the impact of lead at high velocity.
That's also something I'm demonstrating. I like where your head's at, Glenn. You got
the
this.
Physics.
It's also a physics class.
I did not have the same productive month that Glenn had painting. May is traditionally a bad month for teachers, particularly for me because I teach AP students. And so I had to have 2 separate AP dates. I had to conduct multiple reviews, but in the end, I have no excuses because Glenn has, his 2 lovely children, and they can be a distraction, even though they're adorable. And I don't have that problem. So I had plenty of time. I had a 4-day weekend for Memorial Day because we didn't use all our snow days, and I did not really spend very much of it painting. The consequences of which we will get into later. Which brings us to one of the major topics we have of the podcast, other than just kind of catching people up on the month, and that is our Stranded on the Big Blue Wet Thing section. I'm going to ask a couple questions about ships in Blood and Plunder, and Glenn and Tyler get to field my questions, and they're also going to field some of the questions we did not have time to get to from listeners that posted on our Facebook page that they wanted to know. So I will start out by asking, what is the best big ship in the game? And I want Glenn's opinion first, and then he can turn it over to Tyler when he's ready.
Wow. Well, so I think by big ships, you're talking about like size 4 vessels, right? The biggest ones.
Biggest ones.
So that's either the galleon or the 6th rate. And I don't know, because the galleon is pretty sturdy. But
Does the flute not count as a big ship?
It's a size 3, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would count that hull as a big ship.
I'll include size 3s or 4s. We're talking the big ones.
Oh, well.
We'll throw them all in. 3 and 4.
I don't know. I like the speed of the frigates, so the 6th rate and the light frigate, both of which I think you can push up to a 5-inch movement via regular or alternate rigging. I could be wrong. I'm probably just wrong. But I do like their speed. The galleon and the flute do both handle like, the handle like bathtubs, just due to their size.
I mean,
And
it looks like a bathtub. That's why I drew a duck on
I mean, the flute especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as an aggressive commander, I'd probably go for one of the frigates, just because I'm more likely to run up and board you or toss fire bombs on your ship than cannonade you.
Tyler, your opinion?
I think I side with Glenn that I would rather get a 6th rate if I'm looking at a large ship. The frigate, same kind of thing. In part just because by the time you get a galleon and you put, like, you're very excited to put all of these guns on it and how huge it is and how impressive the broadside is, and then you start paying for the guns and the sailors to crew the guns, and it's kind of like the Titan problem in 40K, where you don't bring this to the table in anything smaller than the biggest games you're going to play. I think, Glenn, what was the lowest that you priced a galleon out with a full broadside? We were trying to get it under, like, was it 250?
I was gonna say, missing only one pair of cannon, I think I managed to kit out a galleon at 200. And I mean, like, full light cannons, except I ignored the bow chasers or something like that. And it was like just
Wasn't it
enough...
all pressed men, though? Or something along those lines?
It was just enough downgraded sailors to, like,
Pull the string.
Pull the strings and reload with a group of pressed men at the back. Just like, it was not a good setup, because as soon as you start losing guys, like, you're losing cannons left and right. It's not what I recommend as a build.
You shouldn't do it.
Yeah, if you want a well-functioning galleon, and again, those are all light cannons. If you want a well-functioning a galleon with a heavy broadside to it, you're talking about a 400 to 500 point game.
Yeah, it's an army scale ship, easy.
Yeah. That is one ship against which you sail a couple other small ships.
Yeah. So Glenn's pick for best is the frigate or the 6th rate. Tyler, your pick is
staying with probably the 6th rate or the smaller frigate.
Which is not to say that the galleon isn't a beautiful ship and a good thing to have as, like, centerpiece for your fleet. Just it's not always practical.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying a
For, like,
6th
a
rate is
competitive
necessarily
small game.
practical either. Yeah, in a small game, I
Okay.
think, because even a frigate, you're going to want at least 200 points to crew that up. And a 6th rate, you want at least 300. Because again, you can fit heavy cannon on it, but you run into the
I've
same crew problems, etc.
Yeah, I came up against a gunned out merchant frigate in one of the sea tournaments that I was lucky enough to play in. And it was a skeleton crew. It was veteran gunners. It was built for broadsides, but that was all that that ship did, was just hit you with medium cannon broadsides. And that was in a 250 point, I think, sea tournament. Yeah, any of these big ships, you just kind of have to have an idea of how big a game you want to play before
Was
you
that the
even
one
try building for it.
Was that the one where I
Not the one
started?
that you played against me, no.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me jump to the next question and say, so one of the questions that came up in the game that I played briefly with my friend Shane is like, and this is a meta question, I realize it's more of a strategy thing, but I'll throw this to Tyler first. When should I repair stuff? And is getting the carpenter as a character worth it?
Part of why I like to have a unit of sailors just running around on the ship at all times that are not assigned to guns is for those repair rolls.
Do sailors make repair rolls as better than regular dudes?
I want to say that
I don't
their
think they
sales.
do.
Yeah, they might not. It might be the carpenter that does that.
I'm trying to look up the carpenter real quick because I'm
Yeah.
not that prepared.
I wasn't
Because
ready to
I
have
know
the
the
carpenter
sailors
brought up.
make it easier for you to pass, like
Right, to pass sailing
maneuvers
tests
and
and
sailing
things.
tests and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
And they have to
I
be
wasn't
with
sure.
sailors or expert sailors, so that's why you'd want sailors.
Yeah, because I was playing like a Dutch list on the bark that I was running, and I was stunned by like the expert sailors is a huge advantage. I was like,
It is.
whoa, I get to just auto pass all this stuff almost. That's
So
pretty sweet.
the carpenter is 3 points. Any but Native Americans. Only units with sailors or expert sailors. Command range of 3 inches and command points 1. Only repair action. And he gives an the character that the unit the character is attached to receives a -1 bonus to repair test. So if you're using a dedicated repair with those sailors and it fails, he can still toss a repair action somewhere else.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And as far as when to repair, if it's fires or a leak, immediately because they're only going to get worse. Or I mean, as soon as you can spare to do it. A fire, obviously, because those spread much quicker and will sink
Other
you.
stuff as it becomes critical.
Yeah, if you take a rigging hit early on in the game, maybe fix it. Later in the game, when you're already close and you're kind of bored and ready to swing across, I don't really care if you shoot my rigging at that point. I'm already where I want to be.
Yeah, or if you're already stuck in the middle of a thing and grappled, a rudder hit, meh.
Yeah,
You can fix that afterwards.
Okay. So
Yeah,
speaking
the
of
only ones
rudders,
that I really prioritize is anything that's going to leave me in the water or, swimming.
all right. So speaking of rudders,
Tom's solution was just to take the enemy vessel, right?
yeah, that was my solution in my
Yeah, he
game.
just Admiral Nelson'd it and just jumped off.
Yeah, I was gonna change flagships. The end. My bark has become a flute. Um, so this didn't come up in our game because we basically chose not to play it, and I'm sure that it's well written out in the rules. But how does running aground work? Because I know that there's a lot of missions that are amphibious. So like, are there times when you run aground on purpose? Like, do the smaller boats, like a longboat or a canoa, they have a big advantage in this respect? I'd imagine. If you want to explain what you know about it, I'd say Glenn, you can take this one to start.
Okay, so running aground, if I remember correctly, you roll a d10 and apply your ship's draft value, and if you get 15 or higher, you have struck, and you don't want to do that. Boats do not have draft values, and that includes a longboat, a canoa, and surprisingly, a piragua.
Oh.
They cannot run aground. Or at least they don't have a significant enough draft value to bother writing it down. Even a bark is draft 5. So you have to roll a 10 on your run aground die to put your bark into the reef or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And I think the sloop is like 6.
Loop is also 5. Brigantines are 6, which
that's what it was.
Yes.
Because this actually came up at the organized play event.
Yes, because we played the plunder scenario, which has a hulk on a sandbar that both ships have to try and get to. And the two players ended up fighting across that ship and onto one of the other ships. It was pretty cinematic, really. But yeah, they both had to test for running aground when they tried to grapple the ship.
Huh. Okay.
But yeah, once you hit, you can't refloat yourself until you've reduced your sail settings down to 0. You're not moving, obviously, even whatever your sail setting is at, you've run aground. As far as running aground intentionally, I've done it in amphibious games. I think it's kind of odd because people... Glenn, how did you handle the coastline in your amphibious game? You just set one number X inches from the shore, right?
Yeah, I hadn't read up that much, so I had set it 6 inches from shore, but I'm probably going to use 3 inches from shore in the future.
Yeah, and you might want to do, if you're designing scenarios, which isn't really what this one's for, but you might want to have it set up to where it's deeper further out, where the big ships might run aground even before they're close enough to disembark people.
Okay.
Oh, so like I had it where it's 6 inches.
Yeah, but then make it something where like a sloop isn't going to run aground there.
I mean, sloops of 5, like you'd have to be unlucky to run aground at that point, which is fair.
That's true.
I mean, in my scenario, there's a coastline and then like a deep water dock. So
yeah,
if you're willing to fight your way up a dock, which I put cover on, you can do that.
Yeah, if you're dealing with big ships, it might be more of an issue. Because there's a chance that they're going to run aground before your guys can swim it.
Yeah, but I've changed.
You may want to make that like 3 inches if you run aground, sure, jump over the side and it's passable terrain. But if it's more than 3 inches out, you're impassable.
Yeah.
All right.
Just to force them to get in boats.
Let's
Moving
jump
on.
to the questions from the users because we got a bunch of people that we didn't get to last time. So first one's about advanced maneuvers. Tyler, if you want to explain like what they are first, and also I'd say toss in if you've ever tried them and how useful they are.
So, I mean, just going down through the list, you have box hauling, which is kind of like if you watch like getaway driver movies, like Baby Driver, it's the J turn, like the kind of you're backing up and then swinging the bow around. So you're doing a reverse turn kind of thing. Tacking, which is turning into the wind to get through the eye of the wind, and wearing, which is kind of anti-tacking. You're turning away from the wind to get out of the eye of the wind. So as far as just, how your ship is oriented, but carrying out the advanced maneuvers, it's always a sailing test at 7 or better, 5 up if you're a sailor. There are other things. Yeah, exactly. There are other things that can modify that. If successful, you're immediately going to perform the maneuver as described on page 86 of the core rulebook. If you fail, there are negative effects depending on the maneuver that you're attempting.
It looks like mostly that means that if you're tacking or box hauling, you're in the wind, so you get stuck in the wind's eye, drift, and take a lucky hit the rigging. Pretty much, it's always a lucky hit the rigging.
Yep.
What does a lucky hit to rigging do to you exactly?
So it's the same as like rolling a critical hit. on an artillery. So you're rolling on the critical channel, or rolling on the critical chart for rigging. So you can have sails and spar damage, or what is it? Sheets and spars?
I'm trying to look it up.
Yeah, there are various damage effects you can have. You can end up losing speed. Units in the rigging, or no, units on deck can take hits because you can actually have like yards come falling down on you.
Oh, okay.
You can you can damage sheets and shrouds or sail and spar.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the advanced maneuvers, what do you think is the most commonly used?
Hacking or wearing? Probably wearing.
I was gonna say tacking because you got a lot of sloops that don't give a second thought about heading into the wind.
Yeah, but if you're tacking across it, I guess that's true. One you hear about a lot is definitely box hauling because I don't know. I think it's a myth. I don't know of anyone who's been able to pull it off and not get raked to Kingdom Come. There are people who swear that you can box haul the ship so that you fire your starboard broadside, turn into the wind, box haul, and get the port broadside off.
I'd love to see that. That'd be
Note
cool.
that-
Yeah.
Note that the people claiming that can happen include Mike Tunez, creator of the game. Again, I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah. I think in theory you can definitely do it if your opponent's like, reloading all of their guns. I haven't seen anyone do it that didn't just immediately get raked. But I don't know.
I'm not
Maybe
sure if
I'm
I
an
trust
idiot,
somebody
'cause it's
who looks
usually me trying
suspiciously
it.
like Fidel Castro in the last picture of him I saw. I don't know that I trust that guy. He seems nice on the surface, but he
Poor
might be the
Mike.
dictator of Cuba. All right. Anyway, so let's talk about ship movements, normal movement versus army scale movement. If you want to talk about, because army scale stuff is something that really only comes up in No Peace Behind the Line. But like, what's the difference between normal ship movement and army movement?
Who wants to hit it? Fun?
I'm a little confused on this because of how it generally happens, but so normal movement, you have to go on like the first, middle, and last cards of your go with any residual movement occurring at the end. Army scale movement, typically one ship is its own faction, although that's not to say it's always the case. So often your ship will move 2 or 3 times before you do all of your actions with your crew. Which can make things interesting because you might be a foot or more further up or down the table by the time
Before you get your guns off.
Yeah. And same with your opponents. Your opponents could be a foot away before you get to even like start reloading cannon or something. So army scale definitely takes a little bit more planning in my brain.
So reading just straight out of the No Peace book. In an army scale game, all ships in the army will make movements during that army's company activations. So, as an aside, company activation is whenever a player is activating their entire force. This is very similar to the way ships move in a standard game, as all ships in the army will move during the army's first company activation, the army's last company activation, and one of the army's company activations in the middle of that player's choice. Other than these distinctions, ship movements is the same in a standard game. So, the first card that your admiral, whichever player you democratically elect and sign articles to be the guy in charge, the first card that he plays, or she, or they, whatever, everyone is going to move their ship the first time when that first card comes down. One of the players will then activate their troops on board the ship. The last card that the admiral plays, everyone moves their ship. One of the players who has been assigned that card is going to activate their company. As far as what you do about moving ships on those middle cards, it's not really clear if the admiral says like, okay, and everyone on our middle card, this card, everyone move your ship, or if it's actually up to the individual players to say like, hey, I'm going now. If you want to hang around for that broadside, or if you want to try and GTFO and get out of Dodge. So I think as long as you make it clear to players how you're handling that middle move, army scale is mostly for big scenario games. It's not like cutthroat tournament play. It's kind of open house ruling. Just everyone's moving on the first card, everyone's moving on the last card, and you're either all moving on some card in between, or you get to pick which card in between you want to move your personal ship.
And let's back up. Many times the scenario will be built for 3 companies, meaning that you only have 3 cards. So
True.
I
Yeah,
see
you kinda
that.
have.
I'm sure Joe and Guy have run something where it's like 8 aside or something absurd. But
Yeah. There
That's
are
not
times
everyone.
I think that the Perico game, there are times that I've run it just to facilitate players at the table. I think the Pirates had 4. So there was always kind of that one middle move that got weird. But the Spanish, they only have 3 ships. So you move in the beginning, you move in the middle, you move in the end. If you only have 3 companies. Remember, if for whatever reason you're down a card, even in normal scale, like even in normal ship movement, if you're down to 2 cards, you're going to move on both cards, and then residual movement, that last move, will happen at the end of the turn when both players are out of cards.
All right, I think I was figuring it out as the normal movement was going, but I just need more practice because I've only played the one game.
It trips people up. I think that was a question that we had at the organized play thing. Someone was like, hey, how do I move my boat?
Yeah, when does that happen? And like the rules are clear about it. I just wasn't sure I was doing them right. So, All right.
Like people overthink it and get tripped up.
Yeah. All right. In an amphibious game, do both forces need a ship?
Yes.
Yes.
Technically, both forces should have a ship. There are many amphibious games where somebody will deploy entirely on land, or, for instance, in Escort, you deploy on land, but you need to get over to your ship somehow. In both forces will have a ship or something like that. Like, theoretically, in an amphibious scenario, both forces have a ship. It shouldn't be like 100-point land army against 100-point sea army or sea force, because the land army will get more units and the sea force has to come to them, and they've wasted points in a ship that isn't going to be used effectively. And both players should have a ship if you're doing an amphibious scenario, even if one side doesn't really get to use it, because the other side isn't going to be practically using it for much of the game.
All right. And speaking of ships, Glenn, I'll let you field this final question about non-Firelock ships, because you had some things you wanted to say about non-Firelock ships.
So a lot of people post non-Firelock ships, which is mostly to say 3D printed ships or self-built ships. I've seen paper card ships, all that stuff. They're all beautiful. They're wonderful works of art. They're great models. But I think it needs to be recognized that in the tournament scene where everything is going to be competitive and you have people that are pushing the limits, right now I think Firelock's in a great place where there's a limited number of people in the scene. So we're not getting the ultra competitiveness that you see in other tournament systems, because it's not really a tournament system yet.
No, it's been pretty collegial anytime I've played in it.
Yeah, everybody's pretty relaxed and piratey. But as we begin to get more rules lawyered, I think we're gonna see that like you're only gonna be able to use official Firelock vessels at tournaments.
That's already their policy at tournaments. That is the
It is?
only time. Yeah, that is the only time that Firelock has said that they really care about what models you use. At tournaments, you have to use Firelock ships, and your miniatures need to be based on not necessarily Firelock bases. You can use pennies, but like an American penny, 19.5 millimeters or 20 millimeter bases. But yeah, and that's because
At least, I would say at least, right? Because like if somebody wants to be,
yeah, if you want to run big bases, go nuts. You're only hurting yourself, especially at sea.
right,
And we see people asking in the forum, or not in the forum, sorry, on the Facebook page often enough, like, how do I know how many guys I can put in a sloop? And the answer is how many guys you can put in a sloop. Like, you just pack it full as long as the bases are not overlapping. So if you have a non-standard ship, you can carry more people. The arc of fire is 90 degrees out from the deck section. If your ship is unusually long or a little too short, or it's going to mess with what you can target with your cannons, and it could be unfairly beneficial. In a friendly game, I don't care. If you're running a ship off Thingiverse, I'm really jealous that you don't have to rig Deadeyes. But in a tournament, it's kind of stick to the Firelock ships.
bold of you to assume I'm ranking Deadeyes.
Well, the Thingiverse, the 3D printed, they're printed right onto it.
I know.
Okay.
I think we're talking about. Well, anyways. Also, if you are curious as to how many miniatures fit on a ship, I think we said this before, but go over to Blood and Pigment, check it out. Joe Forster has done all his research. It's all it's all based on light cannons. So if you're starting to stick in heavy and medium cannons, the numbers are going to go down a little bit. But
oh yeah,
he does tell you how many fit in a ship, and it gets a lot. It gets to be a large number surprisingly fast. Like I think the sloop can fit something like 40 guys plus.
yeah, it's
Wow.
between 40 and 50 models.
It's like 14 on the back deck and 27 on the front deck or something. It's nuts.
Well, speaking of the Blood and Pigment guys, I think that's a
Yes.
good segue into our next topic. So, Tyler, I'll let you present this, and then we'll kind of each jump in a bit. But do you want to talk about like how this came about, who helped design it?
Yeah, so this is a collaborative thing, and that is in the loosest sense. This was mostly Blood and Pigment's brainchild, and we're just kind of tacked on. Oak and Iron ran a world campaign during lockdown on Tabletop Simulator. Lockdown's over, and we're mostly a Blood and Plunder podcast. It's our turn. So we are running Blood and Pigment, us here at Tales of the Sail, and the whole world. We're running a worldwide campaign for all players to participate in, and the barrier to entry is insanely low. Guys, please jump in on this because it's going to be awesome.
So all you have to do if you want to participate in this is basically play a game, take some pictures, and send us a little report.
No. Whoa.
Oh, no.
You don't even have to send us a report. Just send us pictures.
Just send us
We
pictures.
need one photo evidence and your faction. Like your nationality faction. Like
Yeah, that's
Spanish,
right. That's it.
French, Dutch, whatever. That is it.
And we will be featuring some of our favorite pictures and stuff. I'm going to be writing articles about people that send me cool stuff, and I'm going to give as many shout outs as I can. Each of the factions has their own commander. And we're going to go through those commanders briefly, but you'll get a chance. These will be advertised. It'll be advertised on Blood and Pigment. It'll be advertised on No Dice, No Glory.
Facebook group.
On the Facebook groups,
Firelock site,
all
I
over
think.
the place. Firelock site, absolutely. This is starting on June 10th. So when this releases, it should be happening fairly quickly afterwards.
We were promised the 8th this time. I
That's
know there was
correct.
a snafu last month, but we were promised the 8th this time, so it should drop in 2 days. This
Now,
campaign starts.
Here's another question: can players play more than one faction?
Yes. Oh, and the whole point of playing a faction, folks, by the way, you can win stuff. We didn't
Yes.
mention that. You can win things by submitting a photo of a game you played. It could even be a solo game, saying which faction you played, and then if that faction wins the whole shebang, you're entered as a faction player for that faction into the prize pool, which I believe is a fully painted and rigged sloop by Guy. That's the grand prize.
It's insane. It's
beautiful.
Gorgeous. And I would also point out it's not just that thing at the end. So that does kind of incentivize people to play as many factions as they can. So no matter who wins, they've got, iron in the fire, as it were. But there are also little prizes given out by the faction commanders throughout the campaign. And faction commanders are going to be giving hints as to what might net you one of those prizes. It could be as simple as like including certain models doing something in a picture. It could be having some like doubloons on the table. Who knows? And it's going to be different for each of the factions. So something that might have netted you a prize for the Dutch may not net you a prize for the English, and vice versa. And it's usually on a first come first served basis. But I think in Guy's specific case, and Guy would be your commander for the periphery powers. So if you're playing as the Portuguese, or as like who else would be periphery?
Swedes, Danes,
Scottish, right?
Lats are in there.
So if you're playing one of those, he has at least 6 secret plans waiting for you. So if you submit a battle report as playing any of those factions, there's a chance you're going to walk away with some blisters being mailed to your house. We're keeping the prizes in that respect small because, as Tyler mentioned, it's an international, global campaign. So it's possible that people that are in Britain win something, people that are in Europe win something. I don't know if we have listeners that far away, but I mean, it'd be nice if we do. But you have an option to sort of win some stuff for yourself, whether you're actually in Spain or just, repping for Spain.
Even the cold north of Canada.
The deep,
you guys can participate
cold
too.
north. Are the Canadians a faction?
They're technically under the French. They have 2 different lists. There's Canadian militia and Canadian privateers.
Interesting. All right, so the Blood and Pigment guys are basically your force commanders for. Joe Forrester is your force commander for the natives. So I have to imagine he's got some fun tricks up his sleeve. We mentioned Guy already, who's the periphery. Dan Carlton is going to be your pirate. He's the unaligned commander. So if you're really into theft and robbery, I read Dan's pitch, because we're all writing like pitches to try to persuade you to join our factions. We will also be trash talking each other in a regular newsletter.
Yeah, like what Tom calls a pitch, I would probably refer to as a call to arms.
It's a call to arms. I'll be reading mine in a minute because I'm better than both of you, and mine is done in this respect. So Tyler, because he's clearly the fanciest, of the 3 of us, will be the French force commander.
Glenn
is going back to his roots. And the Pennsylvania Dutch, who apparently used to be pirates. So Glenn will be the Dutch commander. So
I'm glad Tom just displayed that massive misunderstanding of history.
Yes.
No, they're all the same.
For those of you not in the central Atlantic region, the Pennsylvania Dutch aren't Dutch; they're German. But
yes,
I feel like the food's the same. And in the end, isn't that what matters? And then finally,
I think our food is German at this point.
Dutch food is German food, apparently. Also, the most important commander, the person who is really the rightful ruler of all of Latin America. The Caribbean and parts unknown would be me, Tom, who is your Spanish force commander. I plan to approach my role with the kind of arrogance you would expect from somebody who's been on top of the world in the most unearned position possible. In kind of wrapping up and telling you how excited we are about this, I will be briefly reading my call to arms for all of you. So just, I'm excited to have all of you join my faction, and specifically not Glenn's or Tyler's. Soldiers, merchants, Spaniards, rise to the challenge of our times. We live in a time of danger and opportunity. For a long time, Spain has enjoyed unparalleled dominion over the islands and lands of this glorious new world, and the wealth it provides for our crown and for you, but mostly for the crown. We are rulers of the Americas by decree of Almighty God and his agent here on earth, the Pope, and now we are beset on all sides by greedy and unscrupulous rivals, people with beards, people like Glenn, people like Tyler, pretty much everybody except Joe Forrester has a beard, except me and Joe know better. Okay, but I'm digressing here. All right, these European neighbors see fit to steal what is ours by right, and it is your task, my friends, to stop them. It is your task to repay them in kind. From this day forward, Spain declares open war on Dutch, British, French, and all the European nations shipping, ports, colonies, merchants. Letters of marque are available for all enterprising gentlemen. Rewards are available for all those brave men willing to defend Spanish possessions. Our European and native rivals have chosen war as the remedy for their inadequacy, and we will give them as much of it as they can stand. No force too small, no plunder too little, and no player too inexperienced to join our Spanish armada, to which nothing bad has ever happened. All are welcome. Prizes and glory could be yours. I will be dropping hints in future articles as to what possible prizes you can win, but I'm planning on giving away around 6. Viva España. I'm not going to try to insult any Spanish listeners by trying to pronounce something correctly in Spanish, because it's pretty lame, but I'm excited for this.
The comment I thought of is, Joe doesn't have a beard. Natives generally can't grow beards, right? Maybe that's why he doesn't. That's why he picked that faction.
Maybe.
You know what? I might have come up with a different penalty for you this month.
Oh no.
Oh,
No. Okay. Which brings us to the bets. So, Glenn, you get to go first. We talk about last month's and then our goals for right now. So, go ahead and tell us what the bet was for last month for you.
The bet that we agreed on last month, and actually several months beforehand, we just put it off till last month. Because I had the good sense of telling Tom, like, this is a terrible month for me. I can't do this. Let's put it off a month. And Tom did not reciprocate that when it was going to be a terrible month for him. But we challenged each other to finish the Spanish box. One month to paint 25 miniatures.
And how'd that work out for you?
I'm sitting over here. People can't see it, but I've got the double-handed fist that I'm shaking over my head. I've got a laurel wreath in my hair. A big smile on my face because I finished painting the Spanish box. I completed the Spanish challenge and then some. Like we said earlier, best painting month I've ever had.
He's the painting champion. He succeeded. So you have a goal this time that you set for yourself, and we have a challenge that I've given you. So go ahead and tell us what those are.
All right. So the goal that I've set for myself, mostly because we need them for the next organized play event, I'm going to build and paint both a frigate and a flute and have them ready for the 27th of June. Now, the caveat to that is I don't expect to have sales on both of them because I don't have sales for both of them. And I think Mr. Adam Horton is a little overworked.
He's making progress. I think he's got a batch that's almost ready. So
yeah, he's doing amazing work with sales, but we can only order so many and expect them in a reasonable amount of time.
his primary job. So
Right. He is also a parent and has a 40-hour work week, et cetera,
yeah,
et
he has
cetera.
he has a real job, and he needs to do that first. So that's totally understandable. But I'm
Right.
excited to get him whenever I get him, because they always come out really good. So
That
yeah,
said-
that's completely reasonable. So they're painted, but we don't need
That
to worry
said-
about rigging.
I would like to figure out how to do furled sails, and make them look good. So if you guys got ideas, reach out to me.
Huh.
I'd like to try that and make them look good.
All right, I issued you a challenge as well.
You did.
You have the option of taking.
Outpaint Tom this month. I don't even know what that means.
It means whatever Tyler decides it means, because at the end of it, so if you've painted your frigate and your flute, and all I've done is a bunch of models, and I feel like you probably win, but we would let Tyler be the tiebreaker there, because we have a new way of figuring out bets, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. All right.
Okay.
So do you want to take the challenge and try to outpaint me, or do you want to just stick with what you got?
This seems poorly defined. As a Dutch merchantman, I don't like contracts that are poorly defined. It makes me
Alright.
nervous.
All right. Okay.
I feel like there's gonna be some shenanigans.
I mean,
So-
you're not wrong to fear that.
I was gonna say, why am I being implicated in the shenanigans?
No.
It's whatever Tyler decides it is.
Tyler's a tiebreaker. So
Yeah.
then the penalty
think-
if you fail is that you have to give me a painted longboat.
Which is not too difficult. I do have longboats for the painting.
Yeah, and I don't have
It
any,
doesn't-
so I just want one.
It doesn't state it has to be a well painted longboat either.
No,
Yeah.
you could totally just write paint on it, and then it's technically painted. Mister,
Get it in
I'm not
primer
sure
like an
about
old
the details of
Cadillac.
my contract.
See, that's it. You know what? I'll take it. I haven't taken a challenge yet, I think. I'll take it.
Okay, and so, yeah,
I have to outpaint
Tyler,
you.
we'll see. It might be a clear winner, but if you wind up painting those two ships, I don't have any ships to paint. Even if I ordered them now, it's not on my list of things to do. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well,
All right.
when we get back to your goal for this time, people understand why I'm less certain about outpainting you. Anyways,
Yeah. Okay. So my goal last time was to finish the Spanish box by the end of the month. Tom failed. Tom failed for a lot of reasons. He failed because a computer game came out that he wanted to play. He failed because he had to prep kids for 2 APs. But realistically, Tom failed because he was lazy and he couldn't motivate himself to get it done. So the consequences for this
we were also
are-
being
are-
lenient because
are
I painted
dire.
up an actual Spanish box with the commander and all the associated specific miniatures. We were just gonna let you paint 25 random miniatures that were Spanish.
Yeah, because I just didn't. Yeah, because I bought stuff to supplement the Spanish force because I bulked up all the stuff, and so I had already painted up 12 Lanceros and 2 artillery pieces, but I sort of ran into a wall with the Milicianos, and as a result, I thought I'd be able to finish them over the weekend, and I just did not realize how much time I had left myself to do this. I failed. Now the consequences are bad because Glenn in characteristic Glenn fashion. Also, I have to point this out because I laughed so hard I was crying. So I sent a message to Glenn midweek and said, "This computer game is amazing. I love it." And his reply was a picture of a Spanish conquistador costume on Pinterest. Because he knew that if I failed, I have to show up at the next convention dressed up as a conquistador. And when I told my wife my shame, her reply was, because I left, we were watching TV downstairs and I left early. Said, "Oh, I have to get ready for the podcast." I looked at the show notes, and I was trying to paint stuff furiously, and then I realized at a midpoint I just wouldn't finish. I'm not going to finish. It's not happening before we record this. And I go into her office and I said, I failed. I failed the bet, and I have to dress up like a conquistador in the fall. And she said, first of all, I'm ashamed of you because you left our TV watching so you could lose. And then she started to get excited when I sent her pictures of what a conquistador costume looks like, and immediately went down to the basement and found me a wig. So I already have a wig. I might be growing a mustache just for the occasion. We will be. She's in it. So it's happening. I'm sure I'll be an excellent mascot for Firelock Games for the day that I'm coming in dressed as this. I would say I don't want to dress up as a conquistador for every day of the con. We're picking a day, and that's the day. Okay?
No, that was the because there's going to be Blood and Plunder, Oak and Iron, and Blood and Valor. I was saying that you need to show up as a conquistador on the Blood and Plunder day.
Okay, and that's perfectly fine, totally acceptable. I just don't want to be wearing the conquistador costume every day. Like,
yeah, no, I don't want to smell you after 3 days of.
I don't want to smell like they used to smell. Rinsing their clothes in horse urine as they cross the Atlantic. So yeah, I'll be ready. So my goal this time is, so it's very possible that I'm going to get to run a summer camp where for 5 days I basically get to play and teach Blood and Plunder with like 8 different kids. But I don't really have enough terrain to pull that off. I can really only set up one table with what I've got. And part of my New Year's resolution is to get a ton of terrain built. And I tend to be very persnickety about it. I have a particular way that I want to look. And once I get started, I'll get on a roll, but I haven't had the motivation to get started. And I'm hoping this will give me the motivation. So my goal is to complete 2 tables worth of terrain, which is specifically 5 scattered pieces each, 2 buildings, and a road. And that's for each table. So I basically need 4 buildings, 10 pieces of scattered terrain, and 2 roads. Glenn's challenge is to finish all my remaining Spanish forces.
Because I don't know what you got.
And I've got plenty. That would be about.
Because you could also use those for your summer thing.
No, I need to make them as well. So I think the terrain is more pressing. So I think I'm going to have to stick with my challenge. The penalty is that I'm going to need to video myself singing Yankee Doodle Dandy in a Connecticut state tartan. So I got to go find a kilt. I already had the Conquista costume to do. So the fact that I've lost is motivation enough. And I would say,
if you keep losing to Glenn on these challenges, you're gonna be broke.
I will be broke. Yes, I'm well aware of that.
Although I think your wife will be amused.
So the thing moving forward is.
Well, hold on. Also, the only reason it's Yankee Doodle, by the way, was because we were trying to come up with something Connecticut themed. Because I was like, "Do you have a famous food dish or something you can send me?" And we couldn't think of anything because Connecticut's just a commuter town that's become a state. My wife started looking up.
Bus stop into the Union.
What?
Who let this bus stop into the Union?
I hate
Is this
you
just
guys.
the end of the line rail station for the subway? No, my wife started
let me
looking up.
retreat to Hartford and Waterbury, the twin jewels in Connecticut's crown.
My wife started looking up all the Connecticut state flower and state fish and all those things. So Yankee Doodle is the state song, and then she's like, "Oh, they have a tartan," and I just thought it would be funny to see Tom singing Yankee Doodle in a kilt. I figured you all would think that was funny too.
So the tricky part of this is, so Mike Tunez was on the paint night, which we have this Friday as well, but I don't think this podcast will release by the time.
No, the next one everybody here will be available to go to is the 18th.
The 18th, I'm sorry, it's 18th. So Mike Tunez was on one of these paint nights, and he said, "Well, we want the bets. Somebody has to lose." So moving forward, I'd say after this month, so July, August, September, all of the remaining months of the year, we're going to set challenges for each other where we're directly competing. And we're going to let listeners decide basically who won if there's a tie. Like, is that what you're suggesting? Because there's.
I thought it was just, if one of us, if there isn't already a loser, we put it to a vote.
That's okay. That's what we're gonna do. So if we
So we
both
can start it this month.
if we both complete it, they put it to a vote. But I feel like if we do that, they're just gonna vote that I lost, so they can watch me dance in a kilt.
Hey, maybe they'll take pity on you and decide that you get a free longboat.
Get a longboat, right? Yeah.
Because my inner dwarf from fantasy RPG land will not let me put out a shoddy paint job on a longboat. I'm not gonna just put painted on it. You're gonna get a nice longboat.
All right. So we'll do that. So if we both succeed, the subscribers, the listeners to this
We'll post
podcast,
pictures.
We're gonna post pictures. We're gonna make our cases, and then people get to vote for who they think won.
It'll be on Facebook. So if you don't use Facebook, I'm sorry, but it's
I'm
easiest
all
place
for
us to
the
do
total
polls.
transparency on that voting. You guys can grovel for votes.
I'm dreading the possibility if this goes badly, but I don't know. I guess I've always wanted to own a kilt. I mean, the alternative is just I just outpaint the hell out of him. But that's going to be up to Tyler, or
You challenge me,
or the community,
or the community. Tyler can toss it to the community. So, all right. So to summarize, Glenn's goal is to outpaint me this month. My goal is 2 tables worth of terrain. We'll see who comes out on top by the end of June.
And again, I'm not sure where that qualifies as painting. So mine is nebulous. Is how do I outpaint the guy who's just building terrain?
I'm gonna leave. We'll leave it to a vote if we both succeed, like they said.
I'm still setting my base goal of build and paint friggin' food.
Yeah, and I think that's completely reasonable because that's a lot of painting.
I also need them, so not much choice in it. It's like getting the Dutch cavalry done in 3 days because I needed them.
All right, which brings us to our final segment of
Blood and Pedantry.
Blood and Pedantry. So I'll let Tyler walk us through the rules of how this works. I'll get my dice ready while you're doing that.
Yeah, you guys get to challenge us now, you the listeners. So the rules for how this thing works. You guys out there listening, send responses to talesofthesale@gmail.com. That's tales like stories, not tails like marsupials or whatever. TALES of the sale. By the end of the month, we will select a winner at random from among the correct answers. The winner and answer will be announced on the next podcast. So we will get in touch with you for shipping information of this month, and if you win in the future. So don't just send in the answer and then go on vacation. We'll be in contact.
All right, so I believe this is my question I tossed out, so I'll ask the question. So last month's question, the question for May, was on Saturday, September 27th, 1718, notorious gentleman pirate Major Stede Bonnet fought in a battle he could not avoid, despite his best efforts in the ship, the Royal James. He was pursued by 2 pirate hunting sloops outfitted in Charleston, South Carolina. Who was their commander, and what were the names of the 2 ships? And the big hint we gave you is that you should check out Benderson Little's book, which I think I still have here. Yeah, The Golden Age of Piracy, which I really loved. So the answer, and we had 11 correct answers. And so the die roll.
What, D12 re-rolling 1s? Or re-rolling 12s, I guess?
Yeah, I'll do D12 re-rolling 12s. Hold on. And roll it. The answer is...
Are you using a computer program again?
No, I did.
I think I heard him roll it.
I didn't hear it. Sorry.
The answer is... The winner is David Neeson. So David Neeson is the correct answer. Congrats. He's going to get himself a a pack of 2 European sailors and a sailor weapon upgrade. So we're going to reach out to him by email, and then we'll pop it in the mail ASAP. This time, whose question is this? This is
my
Glenn's
question
This is
because
Glenn.
I was
Glenn,
supposed
take
to
it
have
away.
it last time. I was supposed to have it last time, and I totally failed to prep.
I had you covered.
Yes, thank you. All right. This time, the up for grabs is 2 European sailor musketeers with another blister of cannon crew. So again, 12 models in total, 8 guys with muskets, and 1 more pack of cannon crew. What can I say? We just love to give cannon crew away on this this podcast.
This is what, the third box of them?
Third blister of cannon crew we've given away. Yep. All right. Question: which pirate became known for his mercy and generosity to those he captured, earning himself the nickname Prince of Pirates and his crew the nickname Robin Hood's Men? And what was the name of the ship he went down with? Do you guys think I should read this hint? Because I put it in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should read the hint.
The hint is that I occasionally joke that I named my son after this pirate in a failed bid for extra Kickstarter rewards from Mike Tunez during the Kickstarter
I thought
campaign.
it was a valiant effort.
I thought naming a first child after a famous pirate would, or my first son after a famous pirate would, get us something, but no.
All right, so one more time, read the whole thing.
Which pirate became known for his mercy and generosity to those he captured, earning himself the nickname Prince of Pirates, and his crews the nickname Robin Hood's Men? And what was the name of the ship he went down with?
All right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing these answers.
And we will post it in the episode link, but it's talesofthesale@gmail.com. We will make an effort to reply to people so we can confirm that we received them.
For
You
reference,
did a really good, yeah.
I will. Also,
Go ahead.
sorry. The ship went down in 1717, so this was during the actual piracy era. Raise the Black is taking place in.
Okay, cool, sweet. And we're pretty close to where we want to be in terms of time. So that's going to be it. So keep an eye out for this coming out on June 8th, if all goes according to plan. And we look forward to having you join our campaign, Joe Forrester's campaign, Guy's campaign, and playing as many games as you can against as many people, but mostly playing for Spain.
Which, by the way, doing campaigns, guys, if you really just want to rack up a lot of games, maybe this is a good time to drop in and try that No Peace Beyond the Line campaign in the back of the book. It's pretty well written out, fairly simple to do. You can decide to do 6 turns, 10 turns, whatever you want to do. But if you got a group of players that you're around, do that every week or 2 weeks or whatever you decide. Everybody gets to submit a bunch of games. So might be a good time for that. Is there anything else going up, Tyler, Tom? Are they running stuff soon?
I'm not running anything currently. By the time this comes out, should be right around the time that I'm trying to get the group together for this area. So if you're in the, Harrisburg to Lancaster kind of southern Pennsylvania, central, I don't know what they call us at this point.
South Central.
Central Pennsylvania, yeah, I guess. So if you're in that area or, willing to travel to that area, just be on the lookout.
I will say that the game store closest to me that I've played the most games at, which is Kirwan's Game Store in Catskill, New York, they will be reopening their tabletop wing, I believe June 27th. So I will be hosting demos for people, probably at least once a month in July and August, once they're open for that. And I will also probably be teaching a class at some point over the summer down at Mythicos Games in Franklin, New Jersey. So those of you who are kind of in the Hudson Valley, Northeast area, if you know of any game stores in Connecticut, I'm willing to make a drive of up to 2 hours, particularly once school is over for me on the 23rd of June. So yeah, keep me posted. Drop us a line, drop me an email, or post on our Facebook page, and I will try to make some plans to hang out with you for the summer.
That's just real quick. That's a good point. I guess a lot I don't know how many listeners, a decent number of you guys don't participate in Facebook. I don't blame you. It's a dumpster fire. I would know. Anyway, go ahead, the same email that you would send in your trivia answers. If you want heads up when we are running things, drop us an email there. You can get a hold of us that way, and we will try and make note, and we'll try to push emails out to you when events are going on, in case you miss them on the Facebook group, and things like that. If you either don't participate or you just miss them. I think that about wraps us up, right?
Yeah, I gotta go to bed.
Old man Tom. We got the 27th at Critical Hits is the next organized play event. It will be the second event, which involves a frigate, flute, and a sloop. It's about 200 to 300 points of stuff. You can bring your own models. We're going to be running stuff. We'll have our models. You can bring your models. We'll put everything on the table that we can get on the table. That's the 27th of June, probably starting around 1 o'clock at Critical Hits Games in Abingdon, Maryland. If you're in the Maryland area and looking for players, feel free to contact me. I know a bunch of guys across the state, not to mention the South Central PA folks.
Yep.
Even folks down in Denova, Northern Virginia. All looking for games. So just reach out and we'll find you a place to play if you don't already have one. But aside from that, thanks for coming, everybody. We really appreciate you listening and supporting the show. Again, we love all the kind words that we're getting via email, and we can't thank you all enough for continuing to patronize what we pretend is a podcast. So, again, thank you, and I hope everyone has a good night. Bye.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.